In today's video, I upgraded my electric tricycle, so now it's on revision 1.2 with an onboard charger, and I use it to climb a mountain 2,250 feet in the air, and there's Silicon Valley down there. For the past week, my electric tricycle battery pack has been giving me a lot of issues. It's been acting very weird. It hasn't been having much power. It's been charging really weirdly. The balancing leads have been showing a lot of odd voltages in it. It's been getting out of balance, and it's been getting really hot. So there's been a lot of issues, and it's been taken me like 2 or 3 days to figure out what is wrong with it. Well, it all started whenever the voltage went really low. And normally whenever the voltage would go really low, I would suspect that an entire parallel pack had shorted out and miraculously didn't blow up. Unfortunately, though, it confused me because the balance leads still showed that each pack was charging fine. You know, because if there's an entire pack that was shorted out, chances are this would not show it to be working fine, or the battery wouldn't work. But this is just, it happened to break in the perfect place to cause it to still work kind of, but confuse me. The battery went down to 43 volts, and I was thinking all 12 packs were in series, so that would mean that the batteries are almost near dead. So what I did was I went ahead and put together my onboard charger, and I tried charging it, but it took a lot of power and took a lot of time to even get it to 48 volts. Turns out I was overcharging it by 150%. Somehow, the cells got to 4.45 volts, but yet 4.45 times 12 is not 48. It's more like 53 or 54 or something like that. So this is just, it was so confusing. And the biggest issue is getting really hot. So I ran it and I discharged it. I went on like a 15-mile bike ride. I got back, and once again, all the balance leads were showing that the battery was perfectly balanced. There was no parallel pack that was shorted out. I opened it up and I found that 2 cells had shorted out, and they had broken the 2 connectors, connecting them to the rest of the pack. Now this wouldn't have been noticeable except for I had the balance lead on this side of the pack, and I had the actual power output on those 2 cells. So I had the power wire running across that with like some smaller tabs going across it. Well, this burned out those 2 tabs, and this cell shorted out, or these 2 cells shorted out. So now it was basically like this power connector was disconnected from this pack and connected to the pack before it, so less than 4 volts. Well, this other pack was still there, and the balance lead was still connected up to it, so it was showing it perfectly fine. That's what was so confusing. But I'm pretty glad that it broke those 2 connectors and didn't explode. That's pretty good. How I fixed it was I took those 3 laptop batteries that I recently got, I opened them up, I took out 2 cells that worked kind of fine. Of course, I tested them and make sure that the cells voltage didn't go down too low. I found some cells that were good enough, and I installed them, soldered them up, taped the thing back together, and it works fine now. And I actually have to say, it seems that using duct tape to make these batteries wasn't as bad of an idea as I thought, because the duct tape actually comes apart somewhat easily. I was expecting it to be a really big mess, but it's not as big of a mess as I expected. Now the main issue is that these batteries are fully charged, and I'm wanting to show you guys my new charging system. So, let's go for a quick little bike ride, maybe 10 miles or so, and get the voltage down a bit, then we can come back and I can show you how that works. It's ready for the trip. I'm really enjoying this big box that I got. That technician case. I have installed the super fancy windscreen onto my camera. In other words, I duct tape a piece of foam over the microphone, but it should work. It should make it a lot nicer to hear whenever I'm riding. Wow, look at that view. Oh man, this is steep. Well, this road is pretty steep. It's going to take a lot of electricity to get up that, that's for sure. Check this out. Look at that. Holy cow, I'm high. I mean, altitude-wise. I'm about 1,200 feet up, but I didn't think it would be like this. Wow. Okay, now this is an even better view. Oh man, look at that. I think I'm about 1,800 feet up now. That's what, 300 meters or so? I don't know. Just look at that view. So cool. I stopped by the side of the road and checked my batteries. They're all quite toasty, but they're evenly toasty. All are kind of the same temperature. But that's to be expected climbing this high up into the mountain, or hill. I'll consider it a mountain, and from now on I'll just call it a mountain. If people get upset with me like, that's not a true mountain, I don't care. It's a mountain to me. The voltage is at 47.1 volts. That's not bad at all for climbing up this. I think I've gone up about 1,700 feet now. I'm climbing a mountain on my trike. But anyway, the voltage is at 47 point. Well, it's slowly ticking up a little bit, so that means that it's redistributing its charge, or whatever it is. That's just what lithium cells do. So this is pretty good. Actually, before I go, let's take a look at this dirt. That's pretty cool. Look at that. How it erodes from around the rocks and all the hard surfaces. This dirt is so weird. I really should have drinking some water or had breakfast or something. I have a bad tendency to go on these little adventures without like drinking any water or anything. Ooh, this is high. I'm about 2,000 feet up. That'd be so cool to fly a drone from here. On little quadcopters or something. But anyway, I think I'm going to set up my tripod so I can have a time lapse going. It's not very active today, so the time lapse didn't really look that interesting, but it sure is beautiful. And I should come out here sometime like at like 5 a.m. or something like that, and record like all the fog coming in, or sometime whenever the weather is more interesting. While I was doing that time lapse, I tightened up the brakes on my tricycle, so when I'm going down, I have brakes. And look at this! I just saw this over here. Can't tell what type it is, what number I mean, but still, that's an interesting find. Well, we made it. So, pretty much the ride back is just going to be all downhill. I checked my batteries, and they are at 46.7 volts, which means they're at about 3.89 volts each. I could ride them a little further, like if when I get down the mountain and I have to ride a little further to get home, but I'd say this is a good point to be charging it. I must say I'm really enjoying this technician's case I bought. I felt a little bad for paying 40 bucks for it before, but man, it's pretty cool. Yep, I like it. I feel so prepared with this thing. Yeah, I like it. I may even get myself some more of those. Well, I think it's time for me to go back down. I really hope that the brakes will handle, because unfortunately, the rear brakes is a drum brake, and it only connects to that wheel. So this one's free spinning. So when you hold the brakes, it only stops that wheel, and it barely stops it at all. Oh well, I have the front brakes though, and they're pretty strong. I really like this view. It's pretty cool. Once we get back down to where there's not a very good view, I am going to put away the camera because I want to have both hands on the brakes. Oh man, that's hot. The brakes sure were getting warm. I was riding the drum brakes pretty hard too. Ooh, yeah, that's hot. So unfortunately, the only plug outside is a ground fault detector. So as soon as I plug in that power supply, it trips it, and so I can't power it from outside. So I'm just taking my batteries inside for now, and let's connect it up. I have the power running through my multimeter, so it's measuring the current, or the amps going through it. I have the potentiometer set to one of the lowest settings, like 47 volts or so. Let's bring up the voltage. That's a pretty good current going into it. It's only been like 2 hours and it's already gotten the voltage back up to 48 volts. That's pretty cool. And this power supply is giving it 2.4 amps without getting too hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this in my hard technician's case so I can pop it out and charge it, the tricycle, whenever I want. Of course, I'll always use my IMAX B6 to balance charge it until I get my BMS, my battery management system, in the mail. I ordered one from eBay, so that should help me to where I could only rely on this. The next upgrade I'm going to be doing is mounting this in the tricycle, maybe, but most definitely getting a project box, probably a metal one so it can act as a big heatsink, putting an amp meter in there, maybe even a voltmeter, and a fan to help cool it, so this thing can charge at a higher power. So that'd be pretty cool. Well, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching. See ya!